Hello, everyone. A very good evening to you all. This is Shama, your host for the evening. Super delighted to welcome you all for today's expert talk on cracking the PM career by industry expert Arun Vijapur. Product management roles are extremely challenging and it requires a high level of strategic thinking, self-reflection, and meticulous planning. In today's session, our speaker will help you understand the key mindset and skill set required to transition into product management roles and to land your first job as a product manager. This is going to be a very interactive knowledge sharing session, folks, and I request you all to actively participate, ask as many questions, and make the most of the next 60 minutes. Now, before we dive into today's insightful session, let me give you a quick intro to the Institute. The Institute of Product Leadership is Asia's first business school providing accredited degree programs and certification courses in product management, product leadership, data science, design, and strategy. The Institute has partnered with 3 universities in India and the University of Houston in the United States. The Institute was founded in 2012 with a singular mission of creating 10,000 product leaders in the country. Ever since, the organization has designed and delivered programs in collaboration with various institutes, universities, and corporates to the senior working professionals to help them make career transitions into product management. You can find out all about the Institute and the programs offered on our website. Please check the chat window for the URL. Folks, the International Certification in Product Management program is created and curated by industry CXOs focusing on learning and career outcomes for aspiring and current product managers, with many case studies, simulations, real-life projects, and personalized coaching. So go ahead and scan the QR code to know more about the program and talk to our counselor. Take a moment here to scan the QR code. Now, here's some exciting news for all the attendees here tonight. Thanks to the University of Houston, you have an opportunity to win the prestigious Graham Scholarship of $200 for the International Certification in Product Management program offered by the Institute. The best asked question in tonight's session will get this reward. So once a speaker for tonight presents his insights, we'll open up for questions. Please keep your questions ready. You can ask your questions on Zoom in the Q&A section. This session is being streamed live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So viewers on any of these channels, please feel free to post your questions in the comment section and we'll share it with the speaker. Without further delay, please allow me to welcome our eminent and distinguished speaker of tonight, Arun Vijapur. Arun is an engineer turned product manager. He has B2B product management expertise spanning across platform, hardware, and software products. He is currently working as a senior product manager at Nutanix, building sales and enablement products. In the past, Arun has worked with L&T, HP Enterprise, and Digital Harbor. A very warm welcome to you, Arun. We're absolutely thrilled to have you here with us tonight. Handing the session over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Shama. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep, we can hear you and see you.
Okay, great. So first of all, thank you for having me here. So I hope this session would be useful for you guys in some way or the other. And as Shama mentioned, please feel free to ask questions. I want this session to be more interactive. So I don't mind pausing in between the slides and taking questions. I don't have a lot of slides. I want to keep it a lot engaging and would be more than happy to answer your questions as we go along, right? You can also post your questions on the chat if required. But with that said, let's get started, right? So let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. I think the slides are loading up. Just give me a minute.
Do we run the poll, Arun, meanwhile?
We can wait for a while. I'll let you know.
No problem.
Yeah. So yeah, as Shama mentioned, this session is going to talk about how to crack the PM career path, how to get into it, and probably how to excel, right? Maybe that would depend on the audience and the background. So accordingly, I can tune the session. But moving forward, right? So what's the agenda for today, right? Why product management, right? And how did I break into product management? And we'll then cover what skills do you need to break into product management. And I'll go through some of the frameworks which can be very useful in applying product management concepts. And then we'll do Q&A. And as I said, we can always do Q&A in between the slides as well. So a quick intro. Once again, as Shama mentioned, I have 16 years of industry experience. I was an engineer for over a decade, almost 12 years. And the last 4.5 years, I've been practicing product management. I also have an MBA in product management. And my career has revolved around B2B tech products, right? And in the short span of 4.5 years, I've been very fortunate to work across software, hardware, and platform product management, right? Which is quite rare. I mean, hardware is something really niche here in India. Not a lot of us get involved into hardware product management, but I've been quite fortunate in that front. My domain revolves, or my expertise is around data center products, especially storage, servers, and hyperconverged infrastructure. And I currently work at Nutanix, which is a pioneer in hyperconverged infrastructure software. And in the past, I've also worked with Digital Harbor, HP Enterprise, and L&T, right? I see a hand raised. I'm not sure if there is a question or what's that.
For now, audience, you can drop your comments in the chat window or drop your questions in the Q&A section. We'll take them at a later point, Arun.
Okay, all right. Okay, so with that said, let's move on, right? Before I get started, I would like to understand the audience better, right? So can we run the first poll, Shama, to understand where our audience is coming from? What are the backgrounds?
The first poll is live.
You can see the results coming up as expected. Heavily engineering oriented. Okay. A few of them from sales, operations. I do see a few non-IT folks and few folks who don't belong to engineering or marketing or sales operations. Would be good to know that. Maybe we'll get into that a little later. But yeah, I see that majority of you are from engineering background. So that's good to know. All right. 40 plus on engineering. Okay. All right. That known, the next thing I would like to know is what are you expecting from this session, right? Why are you attending this session? You can select multiple answers if you want. So I see many of them. I mean, this is tight, yeah, but more or less everybody is thinking of transitioning to product management as well as looking for tips to break into product management. And some of them are already product managers, quite new and looking to improve. The rest of them looking to understand product management. Okay, that's fair enough. Okay. We can move to the next and the last question. Why are you interested in product management, right? Maybe the third option, you are bored of coding, right? And you want to do something else. Okay. You see, many of you consider it as a more valued job. It's a high-paying job. Some of you are just wanting to get away from coding and look for something else. Okay. Okay. It's a more valued job. Okay, that's what most of the audience says. All right. I think that's good. Good to know that. Good to validate my some of my hypotheses are right. So I did assume that many of you might be coming from engineering background, and also expected like many of you would be thinking of transition to product management and looking for some tips. So glad to know that my presentation, what I have prepared, caters to that, and do see that some of you are already product managers, so can share some tips and maybe or Q&A. But yeah, majority of the presentation caters to folks trying to get into product management.
There are a
Okay,
few
all right.
comments in the chat window, Arun,
Mhm.
if you want to check.
Sure. Okay. All right. I missed this. Yeah, maybe I should check this. Okay, I'm from engineering, marketing, and management, digital marketing, because that's the right transition for me as a UX lead who's handling product. Okay, rewarding when other products are used by people. Okay, a sense of satisfaction is what Abhilash is saying. Business oriented job along with technology. Okay, yeah, good. It provides a holistic understanding of customer requirements for the product. Okay, good to hear that. So let's get started, right? Why did I get into product management, right? So as a child or during my high school, I was always fascinated to be an engineer and curious to learn computers in the 90s, late 90s. And after that, I got into engineering and got a nice IT job. So I had the strengths, right, to do the job. I had the passion to code. As I said, was very fascinated how computers make things work, and had a decent pay as well, right? So it was all good. I was happy. It was a dream or passion to code, and I wouldn't say I was rich, but okay, I earned well enough, right? And it was going all fine. So after 4.5 years, I shifted my job. Initially, I was working with L&T, which was a service-based company, and mostly initial phases of your career and in service-based companies, you just follow what is told, right? I mean, uh, client says something, you just got to execute it. Maybe it's changed over a period of time, but that's how it was in early 2000s or late 2008, 9. And then I shifted to HP, which was a product-based company, right? And it was going fine. I got a good raise. I was happy, once again, passionate, doing what I was loving, and I had the strength to code. But that is where things changed, right? When I moved to HP, we started talking about requirements, and when we had doubts which weren't clarified by the project managers or architects, they asked me to contact somebody named Ivan, right? Who was my product manager. I didn't even know he was product manager, but we were asked to talk to him to understand what exactly is required, right? And when I spoke to him, what I realized is, oh, this guy knows answers for everything, right? He's whatever we ask, he would give an example. This is what the customer scenario is. This is what they are trying to do. This is the problem, and that's why we are planning. We are asking you to do this change in the product or implement this functionality in the product, right? And I was like, oh, this guy knows a lot of things. How does he know all of these things, right? And then I started doing some research. So, saw his designation. He was a product manager, and I was like, what is product management, right? I started exploring. Then what I understood is product management is not just building a product, right? Usually, what we do in engineering, it's much more than that. There are a lot of aspects to product management which make the product successful, right? And you have to sustain the success as well. And there is a lot that goes into that as well. So that is when I started wondering, okay, could I have been doing all this coding, design, whatnot, right? But now I'm not happy because I don't understand the complete process of building a product, right? What goes into it. So that is when I again lost my happiness to an extent. I need to do something which wherein I understand the complete end-to-end process, right? And that is what led me to uh, getting into product management. So that's a short story how I ended up being there, right? So what is product management then? Now that you know why I got into product management. In short, product management is a role that is responsible for the ultimate success of the product, right? It doesn't matter what 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 it requires to be done to get the product out and successfully launch it and achieve the success. And you are also responsible if it is not successful. As a product manager, you have now done your due diligence to understand what were the problems that we did not solve or where we failed to execute it properly, right? So product manager is in the heart of this whole uh, whole process, right? So as I said, I was just doing one part of it, right? I was just doing engineering. I was very good at it. Then to some extent, I was doing design, right? Understanding what is going into the UX design, why the screens are designed in a certain way or whatnot, right? What's the user journey and what are the use cases? Then to some extent, okay, tech pubs, we thought, okay, we need to write some documents, which is the most boring job. We engineers think like after doing all the interesting work, we have to document that. But that is really an important aspect as well, because the customers need to have the right documentation to access the products and get past the problems, right? Uh, then there was support for when it came to support as an engineer. I always thought, okay, some issue from the customer, there is some bug, we got to fix it. That's not just support, right? I mean, we support impacts the overall customer experience, and how can we make sure that our support teams are enabled to make sure they can resolve the problems quickly so that it increases customer satisfaction and increases our NPS score in there. Uh, then how do we sell products, right? What goes into selling products? What kind of collaterals are required to sell a product? How do we enable our sales team, be it pre-sales, sales, or post-sales, right? Especially in B2B, this is a long cycle, so somewhere between 3 to 6 months, right? So there is a lot of collaterals and artifacts that are required to help our sales team to sell the product. It's one thing to build a product, but unless you sell the product, uh, you don't achieve the success. So sales is pretty important. And what kind of channels do you use, right? Do you use direct channels, indirect channels? How do you penetrate the market? And how do you communicate the value of the product? That is what marketing is, right? You build a wonderful product, but if you can't communicate the value, the product doesn't succeed. And I'll touch upon one of the classic examples of this in further as we go further, right? Somebody who built a great product but couldn't succeed, and somebody years later built the same product but communicated the value much better and succeeded. So marketing is very important, right? And then what goes into the pricing and licensing aspects? How do you price the product? Which pricing model do you use or licensing model do you use, right? Finance and accounting, how much should be your profits, right? What is the cost of building the product, and what's the margin you are going to make? What about the legal and compliance issues, right? Especially when you are dealing with hardware products. And I had this experience. You can't ship certain components manufactured in certain countries to some other countries. There are legal implications. A simple B2C example, what I could take here is uh, power cords are different across countries, right? So you need to know which power cord to be shipped to which country, right? I'm trivializing this problem, but in case of enterprise data centers, some countries have 110 volts, some countries have 220 volts. So how do you manage all that, right? That is another thing about legal and compliance, which you need to take care. Okay. Some of the sales product, the quoting is quite difficult. Okay. I've heard people, especially in B2B space, right? You won't believe me. They say it takes hours to quote a product, and sometimes it spans across days just to quote a product, right? So how can we simplify the quoting process? How can we make sure our quoting process is simple and easy to use? And then this is again something to do with hardware inventory management, right? And we all know nowadays what kind of silicon shortage everybody is facing, right? Most of the hardware vendors are impacted by this. So how do we manage inventory, right? How do we demand shape some things, like something which is out of stock? How can we recommend something? How do we forecast and make sure our procurement is all right? So that's another aspect. And how do we manage our orders, right? I mean, you can relate to this B2C, right? If you order something on Amazon and it is not fulfilled and delivered by a certain date, you get upset. And this is similar in the case of B2B products as well, even though it takes much longer time, but still there are time constraints, right? And we need to take care of all this. So you can see that product management touches various aspects of the business, right? And one thing, last but not the least, right? Uh, Customers. So you got to be talking to your customers to understand what their problems are and what their needs are, and how do you convert those pain points into the product benefits, right? So that's what is product management. And if I were to simplify this, the one line I said, product management is a role which which is responsible for the ultimate success of the product. So it touches various aspects, right? That so that's product management. And some quick studies, right? What do the studies say? So here is a McKinsey report which says that the role of product managers has evolved to influence every aspect of making a product successful, and that is what I just covered in the previous slide. By the way, the previous slide was about my experience. That is what I understood as part of building products. Okay, it's not something which I just took over from some website, but it was something where I had an opportunity to interact with all those cross-functional teams. Here is another report from Future of Product Management 2021, published in early 2021. It says companies are shifting from being sales and marketing led to being product led. What does that mean? Like heavily in the past, all the companies were heavily aligned towards sales and marketing, because you market the product and you get the sales. That is how you make revenue. But that is shifting. Now, if you have a great product, the product manager can make sure that it achieves the success, right? You have a great product, the product manager understands sales, marketing, engineering, whatnot, right? So it's shifting towards product led functionality or approach. And the C suite may soon be from product suite, is what it says. So that's all the good things, right? And you have to be aware that the grass is not always green, right? So before we move further, right, I would like to make you guys aware of some of the things that you should know before you step into product management, right? The first and foremost thing is you have to be good at dealing with ambiguity. And this is a challenge that we engineers face. I, coming from engineering background, I always found it difficult when people didn't tell me clearly what has to be done, right? As product manager, it's literally every day people come to you with problems, and you got to find a way out, right? Uh, they just tell the problems. You have to figure the way out. Nobody is going to tell you the way out. Yes, there will be your manager who will guide you, but you can't keep going to your managers every now and then. It is your responsibility. You are the person who are in charge of that product. You are accountable for that product success or failure. You are accountable and responsible, but product managers have no authority. You got to influence the people who are working in various cross-functional teams, right? So that is another key thing. Just because the title has manager doesn't mean that people report to you. Nobody reports to a product manager unless you are a director of product manager or above that level. The second thing, the next thing is that you have to get the things moving, right? People will be waiting or looking forward to a direction from you. You have to hustle them. You have to motivate them and influence them to do what you want to be done in the product. Nobody is going to go on their own and build something. They all look forward to you. So it comes with a lot of responsibility. And sometimes it's a very lonely job, unlike other teams, right? Engineering teams, you have a team, you are discussing a lot. Here, you have team, but each product manager is in his own product, right? He's looking at his own product. He's busy. There is a lot of that goes on. So it often tends to be lonely, and it can get stressful as well, because you are accountable to the management team as to why the product didn't behave in a certain way, or what was the reason for failure, why the metrics are not the way we were expecting them. So you got to be aware of this. It might sound a very fancy thing, mini CEO, whatnot, right? But it all comes with its own set of challenges, and you got to be ready to deal with all this. Okay. So in the interest of time, I'll move a little fast over here. So probably the next question on your mind would be, how do I get into product management, right? What is the part to product management? So even before we go there, let me show you the career path, right? I mean, let me use the pointer. Yeah. So you can all start as associate product managers or product owner. I started as a product owner, then moved to associate product manager and product manager and senior product manager, right? From senior product manager, you can continue to be an individual contributor within product management, or you can become more of a managerial role, right? Director, VP, eventually chief product officer, and some of them also end up being the CEO of the company. Now, this is good, but how do you get into this, right? Do you need to be an engineer? Do you need to come from business background? Do you need to come from marketing background? I don't believe there is anything like that. Yes, there are exceptions. Some companies are heavily engineering oriented or sales oriented or marketing oriented, and they might look for that background. But majority of the product manager openings, they don't really care, as long as you have certain key skill sets or traits, right? So you can come from customer service, where they generally have a lot of understanding of the use cases and customer issues and how customers use the product. You can come from business, marketing, operations, or engineering. You can be an engineer, you become a project manager, and then be associate product manager or whatever, product manager. So there are multiple ways in which you can land up in product management. So you can take a look at these two articles over here. They might give you some more context. So there is no certain path, right? You can come from any path over here. And how did I manage to get from engineering to product management, right? As I said earlier, I have a formal MBA in product management. But that being said, it's not necessary. You need not have an MBA or a certification in product management to be a product manager. You can do without the certification as well. One of the key things is to volunteer, right? One way to help is get in touch with your product managers, right? Product managers always have a lot of things on their head. So you can always say, I am aspiring to be a product manager. Is there a way that I can help you, right? Can I help you in some way? And I'm pretty sure if you tell the why you want to get into product management and where you can help, they would offload something to you. And that is where you can demonstrate skills. You can also write, there are a lot of forums nowadays, like LinkedIn, Medium. You can demonstrate your thinking or thought process over there. Just take any product, dissect it, probably talk about what its value proposition is, what should be their go-to-market strategy, or how they can make their product better, right? That might catch some eyeballs, and you can explain that in some of your interviews also, if you happen to get into some interviews, right? Networking is also another key thing, right? Networking both in person, which is gone away of late, and on LinkedIn as well. But network, attend some events. There are a lot of events in product management within Bangalore, right? You have a tremendous opportunity, especially for the people in Bangalore. Not now, but maybe things will open soon. But yeah, networking is one of the key areas. I remember I used to run around literally every product manager just to establish a connection and just have a short talk with them. Mentoring is another thing. If you can find a mentor, it would be great. I found a mentor. I really thank one of my mentors, Saurabh Saha, who really helped me in cracking some of the product management interviews, right? So mentors are great. I mean, they have gone through that path. They can provide you direction. They can train you. They can motivate you, give you advice, right? So really a key aspect which we often ignore, be it in any field, right? If you can find a mentor, you will really excel. Last but not the least, whatever you do, you need to prepare. You need to make sure that you have prepared when you are attending the interview. I made this mistake multiple times. I just went and spoke whatever came to my mind, but it doesn't work. You need to be prepared as to how you are going to approach the problem, right? Or the interview. Okay. So product manager, what can you expect in product management role, right? One of the slides, I showed a lot of things, but not really, right? You may not get the opportunity to do all of the things that I just showed, right? And maybe you might do, but in a small extent, right? It not may not be major. It may be heavily engineering fitted, a little bit of operations and little bit of sales and marketing, or heavily sales focused and little bit of engineering and marketing, right? So here is what this I picked up from IPL's website. So if you can see, there are a lot of aspects here, and depending on the company and the role and the job description, even product management, there are a lot of different product managers. There is a go-to strategy product manager. There is a inbound, outbound product manager. Sometimes there are growth product managers, right? So sometimes they call strategic product managers. Some companies even have pricing product managers, right? They have a separate pricing product manager. So depending on the role that they are looking for, they might expect some skill sets, right? You might have to have little bit of all of this and maybe demonstrate that you can learn and you have the basic attributes, which I'm going to talk next as to what it takes to be a product manager, right? Yeah. So what skills do you need, right? And there are a lot of skills that I showed in the previous slide. But I would say that there are three important skills. These are not, and these apply to any product manager, right? The first thing is the why, right? Or the problem. You need to understand why your product exists, right? Who its users are, what problems is it supposed to solve, right? Uh, Without that, you would not be able to understand what to build and what should be there in the roadmap, right? On the roadmap. So people will come to you from various fields, right? Everybody reports problems every day, and they will say, "I want this, I want that." They will always tell what they want, but the key thing is we need to ask why do they want that, right? What problem is it solving? Once you know the why, you can understand what value that functionality or can bring into your product, and does it make sense to build it in your product, right? Otherwise it's very difficult. You will have 100 things and you don't know what to build, right? Sometimes it may not be aligned to your product, right? The product vision, what you want to achieve as part of the product. People just reach out to you saying, "I want this," right? But that is not what your product is supposed to do. So you need to know why they're asking that, and is that the right thing to build in your product. So in short, having a deep understanding of the problem and the customer, right? What they are looking for is critical. The next thing is the prioritization, right? You get hundreds of things, and you have limited time always, right? You don't have time to execute. In fact, there are items in my backlog from last 2 years, and they are not prioritized because they don't make it to the value chain, right? I mean, what value does that bring to my product, and is it really the goal of my product? So once you know the why, it becomes pretty easy, right? But before that, you should also know what are the objectives of your organization, right? What is the strategic way forward for your organization, and then map it to what or how your product can help your organization to achieve those goals, right? uh, in many companies, they follow a model of OKR, objectives and key results, and that brings alignment across teams, right from the top levels, from CEO down to every engineer and other departments as well. So if that is there, great. Align yourself or align your product to the organization goals and see how it can help. right? And which of those requests that are there in the list help your product to help your organization, right? Those are the ones which should be prioritized. And they are the ones which add value to your product and your organization. So if your org is not following OKR model, I would highly suggest that you talk to your manager. Uh, those who are in engineering, your manager would be most likely director of product management. Uh, Sorry, did I say engineering? I meant those who are product managers. Ask your managers on what those key objectives are for the financial year. What do you think should we be going after and achieving in the coming year, right? And note it down and make them as your OKRs, even if the company doesn't follow OKRs, right? And have them noted down somewhere and make sure that whenever you take a decision, okay, I'm going to prioritize this. Does it uh, align to the objectives that my manager told me or the product objectives that we discussed and agreed upon, right? So alignment is the key, and understanding the problem and the value that it may add, right? Those would definitely help you, irrespective of which company you work at, what kind of product manager you are. A deep understanding of the problem and making sure you are aligned with the organizational goals uh, definitely helps you. Now, once you know the problems and you have a prioritized list, right? It all comes down to the art of storytelling, right? And this is very important. The picture represents the message here, right? If you don't tell a story and if you tell, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that as part of this release and all, this is how things will be in people's brain, right? I mean, they are not clear what has to be done, why we are doing this, and okay, there are 100 things to do. But if you tell it via story, right, they all the pieces of the puzzle will automatically assemble, and people know what they have to do and why they have to do. So it is very critical to tell a story, and there is a reason why you got to do this, and I will touch upon that in the next set of slides. Because you got to, if you remember one of the points, you don't have authority over anybody, and you are talking to all the cross-functional leaders. You are talking to head of engineering, head of marketing, head of sales. Nobody is reporting to you, and you are telling them what has to be done. Unless you tell the story and tell the why, it is very difficult to convince and influence them. So storytelling is very critical. So these are the three skills I would say are the most important, irrespective of what kind of products you manage and which company you work for as product manager, right? With that being said, let me quickly tell you a simple and effective storytelling framework, right? It's called SAR, and it stands for Situation, Action, and Results, right? And what you do is you start telling the situation first, give the background, what the problems are, what the pain points are. And I'm going to rush a little bit because we just have 22 minutes. And then talk what did you do about that, right? Okay, there are problems. What did you do? What initiatives did you take? How did you communicate to the people who were supposed to do things, right? How did you influence them? And then you talk about the outcomes and benefits and try to quantify them, right? So let me give you a couple of examples here, right? One of the examples which I used during my early days of career, right? Not early days of career, early days of product management, right? Whenever I went to an interview, I used this framework because people know storytelling is key to product management, right? And a common question that is asked is, tell me about yourself, right? And I use this framework to start that, right? I told what is the situation. I was working as an engineer. I knew this. I already told you that story, right? And then what did I do? What actions did I take? I decided that I'm going to pursue product management as a career choice, and I enrolled onto a course. I started studying, and I started applying those learnings from my class to my product. And what happened? People realized the value I bring in, and they saw that this guy can be a good product owner for our organization, and they gave me a product owner role, right? So I told the situation, what was the dilemma in my career, what action did I take, and what results I got, right? So I use that framework, and product managers are good at identifying, okay, especially the seasoned product managers. When then they see that you are telling a story, they will get it, right? They know that, okay, this guy knows how to communicate. Another example, maybe I'll give a professional example this time, right? So the situation can be that the company is rapidly growing, and we are a customer obsessed company, right? We One of the key metrics we track at the company level is uh, our NPS score. And what happened as the company started growing, a lot of customer cases started coming in, right? I'm just telling the background, and now I'm building the pain point, right? The pain point is number of cases increased. Due to that, our turnaround time reduced, okay? And that resulted in customer satisfaction issues. And that was bringing down our NPS score. So I built the situation, gave the background, pain points. So the situation part is complete, right? Now, what action did I take? We quickly put together a plan that we are going to build a chatbot, because what we saw is most of these queries were repetitive queries, which were quite simple and could have been addressed by just redirecting the new users to the respective help pages or documentation, right? We put together a plan, we pitched it to the executives and asked them to prioritize this, and we got it approved, right? That was the action we took, and we built it within a few months. What was the result, right? What happened as a result of that is that the number of customer cases that came to the support team drastically reduced, right? Because most of the queries were being answered by this chatbot, which was just redirecting the users to certain help pages where they were able to self-service the query or the case, right? And the support team was able to focus on the non-trivial cases. And at the end of 1 year, the NPS score went beyond our initial score of by 5 points. I can say, I can quantify saying by 5 points, right? So I told the situation, I told the actions that we took and the results that we achieved. So this is a simple and very effective storytelling framework. And somebody says it resonates with STAR. Yes, STAR stands for situation, tasks, actions, and results, right? So it's the same. And if you see here, right, there is a way in which the story is communicated, and that leads me to the next slide, right? First we tell the why, right? Then we tell how, and then we tell what happened as a part of that. And this is called the concept of golden circle, okay? I don't know how many of you have heard it, but this is one of the fascinating concepts, right? I mean, from the time came to know about this, I have been just amazed, right? There is a book called Start with Why by Simon Sinek, and I would recommend everybody to grab a copy and read it, because it talks about how to communicate and how to influence people, right? So he talks, rather he says in the book that most good leaders communicate in the same way, and they communicate inside out, right? Uh, and he gives examples of Steve Jobs, Martin Luther King, and he also gives examples. I forget the name, but how people inspire others to give their life for a cause, right? And just to give an example, what's happening today, right, in today's world. If you have seen the news recently, the president of Ukraine, right, Zelensky, has inspired the Ukrainian people to fight for their freedom and fight the Russian army, right? Regular citizens. And he used the same thing. He communicated inside out. What do I mean by inside out, right? It's all from here, right? You start with the why. You talk why we do what, why we want to do something, right? And then how do we want to do it and what we do want to do it. This is inside out. And most leaders, be it political leaders or any leaders who inspire and influence people, use this way. They talk about the why, how, and what in this order, inside out. It's not easy, and it takes a lot of practice, okay? Even I'm not an expert at this. But it's very easy to tell what we do, how we do, and why we do. Probably we don't even know, right? I do have a link of this book at the end of the slide. I'll share that with you guys. So it's very important. People don't realize. In fact, if I ask you over here, do you know why your product exists? Most of you might not know the answer. You might say what it does, how it does, but why is it there in the first place? Many of you might not know the answer. If you know, great. Okay, that's very good. But many of the people just communicate what, how, and why. Okay, and going back to something that I said in the beginning of my session, there is a classic example from 2001 where somebody built a great product, but they did not communicate it properly. Okay, uh, so the company's name was Creative, and they built a 5 GB MP3 player much before Apple's iPod. But the way they communicated the value and marketed it was like this, right? Creative said we have a 5 GB MP3 player and all that, right? What did Apple say? It said 1,000 songs in your pocket, and that was a message that touched many of them and influenced the buying behavior. In fact, when you start with why, it is directly communicating to the part of the brain that controls your decision making. So you always start with why. It's called the limbic part of the brain. But whenever you start with why, you directly are controlling the decision making behavior, right? Or influencing that. So great book. I'll give the link to that book as well. It's there in the slides. So this is a very useful concept. The same thing is there in SAR also. The SAR framework, which I spoke. Situation is the why. Then you talk about the how, and then you talk about the what. It's communicating inside out, and it's quite powerful. It's not easy, but practice will get you there. Okay, now that I spoke about the storytelling framework, let's look at a couple of prioritization frameworks, and maybe I'll rush over here and we can take some questions. So this one is from Reforge. It's a simple 2x2 matrix wherein you have business value on one axis and implementation complexity on another axis, right? So it's a 2x2 4 quadrant. So this is high value, low complexity. It's a easy win. You can take it, right? Low value, low complexity, or rather, let me come here, right? Low value, high complexity. It's a no-brainer. We need to immediately deprioritize such things, right? It's not worth the effort that it takes and the value that it generates. Then there is high value, high complexity, right? These are mostly strategic initiatives of the organization, right? Maybe, for example, uh, I would say somebody, let's say Flipkart wants to get into VR mall kind of stuff, right? It's high complex problem, but it's also a high value strategic bet there. They might decide to put, right, or invest in. So these are the kind of things over here. They get long-term benefits, but they are strategic initiatives. Generally, strategic initiatives are for long-term benefit, and some of them might be complex, some of them might be simple as well. So you should definitely prioritize this, but you should not prioritize all of them, right? Because then you will take ages to get the product out, and probably you are missing out on some of the high value, low complexity things. So pick few of these, pick a lot of things from here which are low complexity, high value. These low complex, low value are something that you can think about it. You can come back to it later. It's like a maybe, if I have time, I'll do it or not, right? This is quite easy, but what do we mean by value, right? That's important. And again, it goes back to what is the objective or the OKR of your product and your organization, right? Is it revenue? Is it profit? Or is it the market share? Is it establishing a brand? Or is it that you are already an established brand? It's a matter of making sure that the customer retention is there and satisfaction is there, right? It depends on which cycle of the product you are in, right? Or which stage of the product. So that is how you define value. And the implementation complexity is nothing but what is the time taken to build, right? What are the different challenges? Like I told, VR and stuff, there are multiple challenges in that area. What is the cost to develop it, right? So based on that, you come up with a matrix, and then you have high, medium, lows, and you prioritize. Okay. This is one framework. And the last one, the other last slide from my side, another prioritization framework. I would say this is called a Kano model. It's from a Japanese person named Kano. I don't remember his last name, but this one, give me a minute. This one is especially useful if your organization is delight centric organization, right? Or your products are focused towards delighting customers, and mainly in B2C, right? It can also be applied to B2B, but mainly to B2C. So on the x-axis you have execution level, low on the left, high on the right. On the y-axis you have satisfaction level, not satisfied at the bottom and highly satisfied on top. And the features or the benefits of the product are divided into three categories, right? The basic is where the it is below the, I mean, users are not neutral to these features, right? And what I would say is these are a must-have. They are taken for granted. People don't speak about it. Okay, if it is missing, they will be dissatisfied. Example: you book a hotel room, the bed is not clean. Nobody will say, "I need a clean bed," right? It's taken for granted. Or other thing could be you go to a website, there is no option to recover a password, right? You will be annoyed. You would not say that is a feature I need, right? But it is expected that there is an option to recover the password, right? Forgot password. So those are basic. And on the x-axis, depending on the level of execution, the satisfaction level will increase or decrease, right? And generally, it's below the normal satisfaction, neutral satisfaction level. Then there are something called performers or satisfiers, right? What do I mean, right? These are generally spoken. People generally talk about it. They are easy to identify. By the way, basics are not easy to identify, especially when building a new product, right? Because you talk to people, nobody will tell you about that. They just assume that it is going to be there. But the performance or satisfiers are spoken. If it is present, they are satisfied. If it is not present, they are dissatisfied, right? It's a linear line. So on how well you execute it, the satisfaction level will increase, right? Sticking to the hotel example, right? The complimentary breakfast spread, the better it is, the more satisfied the users are, right? So that's one example. I had more example, but just moving in the interest of time. Then comes the delighter, which is the highlight of this framework, right? These are unexpected. People don't talk about it. People don't even know. These are surprises. If they are missing, they will not complain because they didn't expect this, or they didn't know something like this could have been done, right? Let me take an example, right? I mean, I don't know if this is relevant, not relevant, but something I put together on my own. You go to a hotel room, okay, you have a TV, okay, there might be Tata Sky or whatever cable TV. But what if they said, we have free Netflix for you, right? You can watch whatever you want. That would be a delighter, right? Because you don't expect that when you go to hotel. I've not been to hotel recently, but I don't know if this has become normal. That brings me to the last point, right? Over a time, the delighters become normal, right? If I were to give another example, let's say when we went to hotel earlier, if there was free Wi-Fi, that was a delighter for us, maybe 10 years ago, right? But now Wi-Fi is the basic thing, right? Maybe it's still a satisfier. We ask about it. Do you have free Wi-Fi? But in the future, we will not even ask. We expect that there will be Wi-Fi in the hotel, right? So over a period of time, the delighters move to performers or satisfiers and then the basic. So this is one of the framework, and you have to look out for these delighters in your product to wow your customers. And it is again difficult. People don't speak about it. This can happen only when you have a deep understanding of what customer needs are, what are their pain points, and how you can solve them in a very differentiated way and surprising way for your customers. So with that, I know I ran out of time, but these are the three books I recommend, and I'll open it up for Q&A after this. So one of the books that talks about inside out communication, which touches your limbic part of the brain and controls your decision making, is Start with Why by Simon Sinek. The second one is a book called the Product Book, which is by Product School, a very good book. You can buy this one as well. And those who are actively looking to transition to product management, and attending interviews, this is a must-have for you. How to crack the PM interview. It covers a lot of topics and gives you a good starting point how to approach the problem and what areas you need to study further. Because this will just give a high-level thing, but to know the concept, you might have to study something, attend a course, whatnot, right? Or read some more books. So that is what I had for today. I hope this was useful. I know we ran out of time. I don't mind staying for another 10 minutes to address more questions, but I'm happy to answer any of your queries that you might have.
Thank you, Arun, for delivering a brilliant session. And yes, the insights and the learnings were very informative. So I'm sure the audience also agrees with that. So let's begin with the Q&A now. Audience, you can ask your questions in the Zoom Q&A section, or if you want to come live and ask a question directly to Arun, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you for asking questions. So taking this first question from the Q&A window, Arun, this is from Sunil. How do PMs deal with nuances of emotions of customers while ideating a product idea?
Okay, how do PMs deal with emotions of a customer? Can you talk about the second part while ideating an idea? Is it?
The second part is how do you mean the second question?
No, the second part of the question. I understand the emotional thing.
While ideating a product idea.
Okay. So look, I mean, sometimes customers are emotional, right? Something is not working. They're upset. They want it solved. But you can't help it. What you can do is show empathy to them, that you understand the problem and what are the consequences of that for them, right? And just say we empathize with you, understand this is the problem, and if it aligns with your product vision and roadmap, go ahead and say that we'll take it up and commit a tentative timeline, right? Not when I say tentative timeline, talk in terms of quarters, right? We might come back to you maybe in 2 quarters or whatever, right? Sometimes it may not be aligned. Customer is upset, but you can't help them. Just empathize and try to find a workaround and talk about it to them. I don't know if I answered that satisfactorily, because ideating, I don't know why they might be emotional or what was that. I didn't get that part. If you can come live, that would really help. But I think the key is empathy, right? You have to empathize with your customers and listen to them.
Okay, Sunil, if you want to come live, please raise your hand. Meanwhile, we'll take the next question here, Arun. This is from Poonam. What about product creation? To what extent are PMs involved in product creation?
Okay. Okay. So in the early part of your career, I would say you would be involved in product creation. I believe when you say product creation, you are talking about what is your involvement. Maybe my camera is off. Sorry about that. What is your involvement with engineering team, right? I would say it would be a little more in the beginning, but as you grow, you would focus towards more strategic things and just give a high level overview or write the PRD and just hand it off to engineering. Yeah.
Okay. So this next question is from Smita. What approaches are followed when large enterprise products are in maintenance sustenance? What kind of role a PM plays for such products?
Okay. I have to be on that maintenance products. Or I can
Your voice is breaking.
Opportunity where is it? Yeah, I was just trying to switch on my laptop camera. Can you hear me better now?
Yep.
Okay. So I was just saying that I haven't dealt with such products in maintenance, but what I would say is if the product is going end of maintenance, there is something else that is coming up, right? So look out for opportunities as to how you can transition to another product and hand it off to some junior PMs. I would say that is the product. You guide the junior PM and go to a new product, right? Uh, to be honest, I haven't dealt with that, so I don't know if I did justice to that question.
Okay, so Arvind wants to come online and ask his question.
Mm-hmm.
Arvind,
Okay.
Arvind, are you around? You can ask your question now. I'll mute you.
Hi. So how do you first step into the product management role? Like if you do not have any single experience on delivering any products or managing any products, you are part of many services companies dealing with various roles.
Mm-hmm.
So where is the start point actually? Like because some might be from the testing background, or some might be from the maintenance.
Yep.
Some might be from IT. So,
Yeah.
so how do you target
Mhm.
that?
No, I mean, see, it doesn't matter as long as you are curious as to why we are doing certain things within our product, what problems we are trying to solve. If you can show those attributes to your product manager, right? It definitely helps because a lot of times, right, we are just focused on what we do. We are not focused on why we do what we do, right? So that shows that you get to the root cause of the problem and try to make sure that we build the right thing. So that is one. Other thing can be even though you don't have direct experience, you have a lot of other experience that you have gained over the years, right? It can be understanding the domain or whatnot, right? That will definitely
Exactly.
help.
That sorry to interrupt you. You mentioned that point, right? So, domain specifically in services based, you cannot stick to particular domain. Maybe you might
Yeah.
have less exposure on certain aspects, and you might have more exposure, which is quite irrelevant to the market, but still, you're a billable resource and being paid. But
Yeah.
you got into Nutanix because you had a prior experience working on HP, LNT,
Right.
and so on. So, for example, if I want to get into some BFSI, the first preliminary question would be like, what can you just give a overview of payments, how the payment card works, something like that. So those kind of questions we won't be able to answer, and we won't be able to justify the uh, product management role.
Fair enough.
So in that case, assume that we don't have any like.
Yeah, I got your point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it would be highly challenging to get into the product management companies. So how do we knock the door for that?
Okay. I would say just just study some products, right? Study product management, apply your concepts on that. Typically, one of the questions in product management is pick up your favorite product, and then they're going to ask what you would make it, how would you make it better, and why would you think that would be the way forward? What should be the strategy going forward, right? How can you increase sales? Uh, so try to apply those product management concepts, whatever you have learned, dissect a product, and that should help you. But you need to get started somewhere, and as long as you're curious and you get to the root of the problem and you have an effective way of communicating what you are thinking, what your thought process is, that definitely helps. Because I'll tell you, I got into product management career just because you said you don't have domain experience. Let me tell you this, right? I got into Digital Harbor as an associate product manager, right? And Digital Harbor was into compliance and all that. I had no experience of that. Yes, I did have an advantage that I had done an MBA in product management, but I was just selected based on my presentation, right? There was no interview. I just they gave a problem statement.
Okay.
I broke the problem statement. I explained the rationale why I am presenting these options in front of them, and they were fascinated, right? Okay, we want to hire. So it doesn't matter. Domain expertise is not a must. It's just your thought process, how you think, how you communicate. Uh, uh, that's what matters. I wouldn't say that's the only thing, but that definitely shows that you have the mindset of a product manager.
Thanks, Arun. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Arvind, for coming online asking a question. And audience, thank you for your participation and asking the questions. But in view of the time constraints, we'll have to conclude today's session. But please go ahead and book your.
Shama, I don't mind. I think I can spend 5 more minutes. I just want to do justice for some of the folks who have sent something here.
Okay, sure.
So
you can take them up. I thought it was a hard cut at 9. That's why I.
No, it's okay. Let me see what approaches are followed in. I think I covered this. Is domain expertise required for getting filtered for interview? I would say not all companies, but some of them do, right? You need certain domain expertise which are complicated and they don't want to invest training you on that. So that's on that. How do you prepare about analytics which modern day products are built on? Okay, so this one, now off late, there is a category of product managers called data product managers or whatever, right? So they have done some course on data science, or they have some data science background, and they have the traits of a product manager, right? Maybe they have done an MBA. So I would say if you really want to be an analytics product manager, you need to brush up your skills or get your hands dirty and learn some analytical things. If you're talking about Tableau, that's quite easy. You can do that. But I think that's there's more to that, right? So that is one way. But there is a specific category over there. So they are called data product managers. Okay. The recommended books here. I don't know if the presentation can be passed on. If not, what I can do is I do have my website. I'll post some of the content that I delivered here over there, and you can visit my website and get the link to the books. What is the basic difference between a product manager and a product owner? Okay. Quickly, product owner is more inbound. I mean, the product manager is doing all the outbound activities like marketing, sales, and all that, and he's just passing on the high-level requirements to the product owner or product owner, who is heavily involved in engineering. Just that he has more business sense than the engineering counterparts, right? So the product owner usually breaks down the one-liners or the initial PRD into user stories that the development team can deliver sprint over sprint. So that is what it is. But some companies do call product managers as product owners as well. So it's quite vague. Look out for the job description, ask questions, seek clarity if you really are applying for any of the roles, right? Okay, I'm working in internship and this is another great point, by the way. And I need to do very less work. I'm working in internship and I need to do very less work. Okay, maybe you're asking how do I manage time, right? So it's all about prioritization. Which one is more important to you, right? I decided when I was doing MBA that I don't care if my manager is not happy with my work. If I get a lower rating that year, because I prioritized getting into product management on higher side, right? So you got to decide where how much time you want to spend on internship and work. Coming to internship, right? This also goes to what Arvind was asking. Internship is one of the ways you can get into product management. You can do a side gig, or nowadays there are remote product manager options. If you somehow are able to crack it, you can do that as a part-time job, right? And see whether you like it or not. Is there a website for practicing problem solving? There is, but I don't remember it back of my mind. Maybe a quick Google should help you. Any recommendations for PRD template? Again, I maintain a very simple PRD template. I start with a business objective, and if you are using Jira, it creates the template, right? Business objective is the why, and then you have the what and how, right? Generally, product managers write the what, and the how is left to the engineering to figure out. Uh, okay. I am a sales. Why, what, and then probably what the expected results, right? I'm a sales and marketing company where I sell two courses. I don't know what that means. What PM does on a everyday basis. Everyday basis, you start with all the problems that are being reported, uh, answer them in the best possible way. Some of them are something that you can improve in the product. Some of them are just workarounds. Some of them don't make it to your product backlog, or they are low in the value. That's how the day starts. And often, if you're a product manager, you'll have a lot of meetings both in the morning and night. So that is one more thing. It's the afternoon which is free, and where you can set aside some time to focus on your activities, which includes writing PRDs or working on strategic items, right? So I recommend blocking your calendar for an hour or two in between. Otherwise, you are swamped with some or the other things throughout the day. Okay. Difference between Shama, can we do one thing? I mean, if there is something that is not answered, if you can email me, I'll get back to you with the answers, and you can
Definitely, Arun.
send it
I'm
to
more
them.
than willing to do
Yeah.
that. So we have all the questions answered that way.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So I hope this session was useful.
But Arun, before we conclude, could you help us pick
Mhm.
the winner of the Graham Scholarship? So the best question award.
Uh,
Yeah, I know I'm putting in
okay.
the spot here, but
The, okay. Couple of things were interesting. Let me see. Something that I was not able to answer very well. I forget what that was.
um,
Okay,
any
let me pick one.
clue, any keywords?
Uh, One was on that emotional part, but I don't know if I really got that question, so I can't judge that. Let me pick one thing, right? Uh,
That was from Sunil. How do PMs deal with nuances of emotions of customers?
yeah, I would say that was quite interesting because I didn't touch upon that topic in my presentation as well, and only when he asked that, I said that you got to show empathy, and that is one of the another key things as a product manager. You got to be empathetic with your customers. So I would
Okay.
say that was a good question. But if that question is not completely answered, Sunil, please do send it via Shama to me. I'll try to answer it better.
Congratulations, Sunil, on winning the Graham Scholarship of $200. We'll reach out to you with the reward shortly. We have enjoyed having you with us, Arun. It's been a complete pleasure. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and amazing insights drawn from your years of research and experience in the industry. I believe audience can benefit immediately from the methods you suggested and get ahead in their career. Thank you once again for joining us and making this session a huge success.
Okay. Thank you guys, and appreciate you guys spending time post office hours. Thank you. Have a great evening.